Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're watching me for the first time, my name is Kaja and I used to live in China. I actually used to live in China twice already. Can you say that? I just moved to Paris from Shanghai a couple of months ago, and it's no secret that I freaking love living in Shanghai. If you've seen any of my other videos, you probably know that because I like to repeat myself. It's also no secret that I really miss China, and I still get a lot of questions from people on internet about China, about my tips for China and all that. And I did make a video once about my tips for traveling to China for those of you that have never been to China. But let's be honest, this video is really bad because I was really awkward in front of camera. I don't really know if I'm better now, but yeah, let's give it a try. Anyways, this is my 10 top tips for those of you that are traveling to China for the very first time. Number 1, get yourself a translation app. This is probably the most important thing, the most crucial thing if you're going to China. Unfortunately, the language barrier is still pretty much a thing in China. In bigger cities like Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, it is getting much better. More and more people speak English, but still communicating in English can be quite challenging in China. So that's why the first thing you have to do when you're getting ready for your China trip is to get yourself some decent translators to be able to communicate with people. If you watch other YouTube videos, people will give you tips about all these fancy translators where you can speak to it, where you can touch to put it on the wall and it translates shit. To be honest, most of these fancy translators, like the ones where you can just scan, let's say you have a text in Chinese and you can scan it and it's supposed to translate into English, to be honest, like literally 99% of the time it does not make any sense at all. So yeah, my recommendation would be to just get yourself a very simple dictionary app. I always use Pleco. It's just a very simple app where you just put one word in Chinese and it translates to English, or you put a word in English and it translates to Chinese. Oh yeah, and Pleco works without internet. Whatever you get, I use Pleco, but I mean, get whatever you want. Whatever you get, just make sure that you can use it without internet. Number 2, get yourself VPN. This is really important if you're going to China. You might have heard that in China, Facebook doesn't work, Instagram doesn't work, WhatsApp doesn't work, New York Times doesn't work, Forbes doesn't work, what else doesn't work? Google doesn't work. How do you survive without Google? Like, I mean, who the heck needs Facebook anymore? But you do need Instagram. How are you gonna post Instagram stories? Basically, VPN is something you download on your phone and on your computer. Most of the time you have to pay for it. I would say you do have to pay for it. If you want to get legit VPN, you will have to pay for it. It's not very expensive. Those free ones, they usually work, but then for like maybe 3 or 4 days. So if you're staying in China for longer than that, you'll have to pay. Sometimes I see these travel vloggers on YouTube traveling to China and making such a big deal of not being able to use Facebook, and I'm like, just get a VPN, okay? I mean, it takes like 5 seconds to Google it and figure out how you can, you know, escape the Great Firewall of China. Number 3, make sure you choose the right time for traveling to China. I get this question a lot, people asking me about weather for some reason. I don't know, like, who the heck does it? Like, you're traveling to China and you're like, I'm going there in March. I wonder what the weather will be like. Let me go on YouTube and ask a random YouTuber. Like, who does that? Don't you have a weather app? Or don't you just Google weather China March? And the biggest problem with this question is not even that it's a little bit stupid, it's just that I cannot answer that because I don't know if you've ever seen the map, but China is freaking big. It's a very big country, which means that the weather in the north is nothing like weather in the south or in the middle or somewhere else, you know. If you're planning a trip to China and you know you're going to be traveling to a couple of different places, make sure to check the weather, to take the right clothes with you. Don't ask random YouTubers on the internet because random YouTubers already get a lot of random ass questions from weird people. Oh, actually, the point of this point is not even to tell you that check the weather app. Whoa. The point is that make sure you're not traveling to China during any Chinese national holiday. If you do, you will die. No, you won't die, but it will make your trip miserable, okay? Miserable. Don't travel to China during Chinese national holiday because that's when the whole country is traveling and everyone is moving and you'll basically get stuck. Number 4, China is a very, very big and very diverse country, so make sure you do a proper research before you travel to China. I sometimes get messages from you guys saying like, oh, I'm going to China for 10 days, but I don't know if I should go to only Beijing or only Shanghai. My advice would be, if you're already making the effort of traveling to China, you're probably getting visa because majority of nationalities need visa for China. Don't limit yourself to just one place in China. China is such an interesting and diverse country, and Beijing and Shanghai could not be more different to each other. And even for me, it's so hard to answer this question, like which city should I choose? I'm like, I don't know, they're so different. I cannot tell you which one you should choose. And even though I obviously love Shanghai, I lived in Shanghai twice, so obviously I do have more of like personal relationship with Shanghai. I still think Beijing is amazing and interesting city, and it's so different to Shanghai. So I would highly recommend you to just do both. And if you have time, go to the south as well. Go to Shenzhen, go to Guangzhou, go to Guilin, or travel somewhere in the mountains. China has so much to offer. And also don't be afraid of the transportation issue. Like, so I think some people sort of limit themselves to just one place in China because they're afraid that taking a train or whatever, plane, it's gonna be difficult in China because of the communication issue and all that. But don't worry, if you're taking a train or a plane, everything will be written in English. Chinese train stations and airports obviously are super modern. They're signs in English everywhere. You don't have to speak Chinese. You just book your tickets online, you show up at the station, you pick your tickets, you get on a train, you don't need to speak Chinese. It's all really convenient, modern. Number 5, don't get ripped off as soon as you arrive in China. Go to the official taxi line. This again might sound a little ridiculous. This is something that happens all around the world. You land at an airport and then you go out, you want to take a taxi, and then there are all these men coming to you. I mean, usually they're men, let's be honest. And there are all these men coming to you and they're like, lady, taxi, taxi. And you just say no. You don't even say anything. You just go. For some reason, people are tired. People are jet lagged. You've just been on a plane for like 15 hours or something. And a lot of people are just like, okay, whatever. It's just going to be a little bit more expensive. But no. Every airport in China will have official taxi line, also every train station. And it might seem like more of a hassle because you might see a line with like 30 people standing there, but don't worry, taxis come so frequently and it will just make your life so much easier not to get ripped off as soon as you arrive in China. I personally think it's so much more worth to actually wait in this freaking line for 10 or 15 minutes than to get scammed and, you know, go for this whole like stress of getting scammed and like fighting with the taxi driver. Because if you take one of these people that approach you, I can assure you that they will take you around, they will drive you around, they will say like, oh, 150 yuan, which is, for example, in Shanghai, this is how much you should pay for getting from Pudong airport to downtown. But then they're gonna be like, oh no, not 150 yuan, $150, which is like 7 times more that you should pay. Number 6, you might have heard it before, but China can get pretty crowded. There are a lot of people in China, and if you're traveling to a big city or any other like major tourist attraction like the Great Wall of China, there will be a lot of tourists there, not only foreign tourists, but a lot of tourists from China. I know a lot of people that for some reason choose to go to China in like an organized tour, organized group. I mean, a lot. Like, I know young people sort of don't do it anymore, but there are still some people out there who just find China scary and all that, and they think that going with this like organized tour, organized trip would be better. But to be honest, if I've seen like the plans where they're like, you know, day 1 Beijing and Tianjin, day 3 Shanghai and Hangzhou, day 4 Hong Kong, I'm like, oh my god, you know, just don't do it to yourself. China can be quite intimidating because of people, because of noise, because of the, you know, if you go to the Great Wall of China in the morning, don't choose to go to like the Forbidden City in the afternoon. You'll just get crazy, trust me. Take some time to just chill, to just walk around the streets. What I find most interesting in China, but also wherever I'm traveling really, is to not only do the tourist things, but also just to walk around the streets and like absorb the life and observe people and just enjoy the place and not only like run from one tourist attraction to another. 7, don't let the concern about your safety stop you from traveling and exploring China. So that's another question that I get a lot. People ask me if it's safe to travel to China, and yes, I would say it's safe to travel to China. To be honest, I sometimes find China even safer than big European cities. I live in Paris now, and I can tell you one thing: Shanghai is so much safer than Paris. Like, it's not even comparable. Like, there's so many creeps in this city, and yeah, there are just so many issues that you don't really have in China. So yeah, don't be too worried about your safety. Obviously, as I said before, shit happens everywhere, and shit can happen in China as well. But in general, China is a relatively very safe place. Okay, I'm gonna stop showing numbers, it's getting too difficult now. Number 8, be aware of scams. There are some like pretty popular scams happening in China. I would say that number 1 thing to be aware of is that be aware of people who approach you most of the time in like the touristy locations and speak perfect English, and for some reason they want to make friends with you, and they'll probably tell you that they're students from like Beijing University, and yeah, they just want to make friends. Be aware of that. And if they say anything about tea house, just run. Don't believe them. I mean, okay, you don't have to run, it's not like they're gonna do anything to you, but don't trust them. So it's a very popular like scam in China. People approach tourists and they're like casually making a small talk, and then they're telling you that, oh, they're actually going to this popular tea house somewhere, and then they take you there, and then you basically, it's like a money scam. So you just end up paying shitloads of money, like, you know, 20 times more for what you should have paid for a tea ceremony. If you want to do a tea ceremony, ask at your hotel, research online. You usually have to book in advance. It's not just like a walk-in thing. If it is, it will probably be a very touristy place. Number 9, don't be afraid to try those small local Chinese restaurants or even street food. That's also another thing that I get a lot. People ask me if I eat street food in China, and yes, I do eat street food in China. I eat street food way too much. For me, that's like one of the best things about China, trying the cuisine, trying the local dishes, like all these small restaurants. And China is just full of restaurants. There are these small local shops selling noodles and rice and dumplings, and bigger restaurants and street food like everywhere. I feel like being afraid to try out Chinese food is one of the biggest mistakes that some people might make when they travel to China. And finally, number 10, bring your own tissues and hand sanitizer wherever you go. Unfortunately, toilets in China, public toilets, often lack these two. They lack toilet paper, they lack soap, so it's better to stay safe when you travel. So bring it around. Whew, I feel like I've been talking for quite some time. I hope this video was helpful for those of you that are planning a trip to China. If you have any other questions that I didn't answer in this video, I mean, there's so many things I could talk about. This video was pretty random. Just let me know, maybe I can help out. And for those of you that are regular to this channel, I will see you soon. Bye.